Hi, everybody. Welcome to Review Week. Next week, you'll be taking your final exam in your history class. So you've come a real long way with all of your studies, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. Today, I'm going to review what will be on the final exam. Again, my final exam is a multiple choice, A, B, or C, one answer per question. And there are 25 questions, okay? So there are 4 points each. Please make sure that when you finish your exam, you click complete to submit it, all right? This will be 40% of your grade. You guys have been doing really well, so I'm sure you'll get great marks on this, and I hope that you enjoyed the class as much as I enjoyed teaching it. The exam starts with work from the Renaissance. And I'm just going to use my notes to look down. I don't really have a lecture and there are no videos this week. And I'm just going to tell you some things that I think you should be aware of. Also, please look at my, my portal because I have posted a review sheet. Everything that's on that sheet will be very helpful for you to complete your final exam and be successful on it. Okay? So, we talked about the Renaissance and the Reformation, and the Renaissance is a French word that means rebirth. And when we talked about this, we knew that it covered the 15th and 16th centuries, and it happened in France. And it was a time when culture was beginning to develop more and more. And it leaves the Middle Ages, which were somewhat dark and dreary, into a new rebirth, awakening, almost like when spring comes to us after the winter, all right? And then also there is an Italian Renaissance, which was very big. And the major characteristics of the Renaissance are that the important factors were the movement of philosophical ideas again. So remember when we talked in the past about Aristotle with Greece and Socrates, now again, people are thinking about philosophers, and there's a movement called humanism, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a movement about people, humans, okay? So what's happening is there has always been a huge emphasis on the Catholic Church, making the decisions and teaching us about everything. But in the Renaissance, it's different. In the Renaissance, now people are being told that they have the right to think. They have the right to form opinions or make choices. Humanism is an intellectual movement that was rooted in philosophical ideas around the importance of man. Very important. All right, so now we're starting to move from the Catholic Church. Excuse me. And this is pre-Protestant Reformation. Remember when the Reformation starts, that's really moving from the Catholic Church. So now, before meetings and social gatherings and everything was held around the church. Now with humanism, people are beginning to realize that they can sit down and talk and reason things out together and make ideas and come up with answers to problems, not only rely on the Catholic Church. During this time, Plutarch is a very well poet and is known as the father of the Renaissance. He believed that human beings were given the power by God to realize their potential. Okay, so he's saying that all of us have what we need inside of us to determine our life and our wants and our expectations. Not that someone else has to tell us about that, especially just depending upon the Catholic Church. The Medici family was very important during the Renaissance. They were extremely powerful and extremely wealthy. And they were in Florence, and their patronage of the arts really helped the Renaissance grow and develop in the arts in Florence. Okay, so the Medici family, a very important family during this time. The characteristics of the Renaissance where there were different themes in paintings. And one theme was naturalism and realism. And when we look at especially paintings of the human form, of the human body, there is an emphasis, a stressing, a deliberate push to show how the human body really looked. And we talked a little bit about Leonardo da Vinci during this time, and that how did he learn about how human bodies looked? Well, one of the ways was he would go to the morgue and the hospitals and look at the people who had died, the cadavers, and study the musculature and the bones to see how they moved and how they really were set in the body. And you'll see in many times in sketches that he had done that there was a great stressing or emphasis on the human form and anatomy. There was chiaroscuro. Chiaroscuro is the use of lights and darks in art to show depth. You look at your face, so it's a little darker here. I have these old lady wrinkles, right? You see? And over here, it's not just one color. So in order to make the face look three-dimensional, they shaded here for these great cheekbones, you see, like that. So they use that sort of thing, okay? Before, there wasn't so much emphasis on stressing lights and darks, and also lights and darks in landscapes. The darker receded, the lighter was in the forefront, showing depth. These trees were up front, these trees are behind, okay? Now, there was also 1 point perspective, okay? 1 point perspective. And that's giving things a three-dimensional look. And this is also shown in a lot of architecture so that you could see how the building has a portico. And in front of that, there are columns. And behind it, there's a flat part, like in the White House with windows. So that 1 point perspective gives the eye of the person who's viewing it a three-dimensional idea of how that building looked. Okay, so that's our Renaissance, and let's just look at something else. So remember, the Renaissance is the French word for rebirth, and two important factors are philosophical ideas that started in the time of the Greeks, and also a strengthening in the beliefs that humanism, people were in charge of their destiny, not just the popes. Now, following this, in Europe in the 1500s, the Protestant Reformation begins. Reform, Reformation. And Martin Luther is the leader of the Protestant Reformation in the 1500s. And what happens is he challenges the teachings of the Catholic Church, not all of them, but some of them. He believes that, first of all, there's some corruption in the church. He believes that people are paying popes and priests for their salvation. They did stuff that was wrong, so they figured if they give a lot of money to the church, they'll be forgiven and they'll go to heaven. Well, Martin Luther says, not happening. That's wrong. You can't pay for your salvation. Okay? And so this is the beginning of the basis of Protestant religion. The Protestant religion is an offspring of Catholicism.